Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I've been talking about building a podcast probably for more than a year. I didn't at the time have an idea on who I was going to have. I've known this reprobate.
Cheeky git.
What, 10 years? 12 years?
Going on a decade, if not more.
Yeah, no, it's got to be more than a decade. Because I was 35 when I applied, and you interviewed me with her. I can't even remember her name. Emma. For the job. I was 35. I'm just turning 45.
It's a decade.
Yeah. Outrageous. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sean. Online I'm occasionally called the Irish Muslim. You've never met my friend. He's very, very shy normally, but I try to pull him out to try and get him onto this podcast so we can speak about our country and the state of the United Kingdom. We're both very patriot men. We love our country. The pity when either of us actually served. Dog biscuits, honestly, dog biscuits now. Trixie? Yeah, that's Trixie. She's the little Jack Russell that is Chris's pet. She's lovely, absolutely attention seeker. So I just wanted to get an idea of. I've known Chris 10 years. He's known me in work and out of work. We suffered in an industry. We'll call it that.
It's an interesting industry. Let's rephrase it to
interesting.
It's been more fruitful then.
Interesting. I think that's the perfect way of describing the industry we worked in. We bonded over shared trauma. That's the only fucking way I can describe it.
Shared trauma, more like chaos, but there you go.
Well, that's why they always wanted you on shift, because you managed chaos.
I've come a master of managing chaos.
So the podcast is about Britain's society, how we address the various problems, and asking some of the questions we genuinely feel are not asked in the United Kingdom. Our country very rarely sits down and asks questions about why the negative impact of things like feminism, how it's affected the decline in the British birth rate, which has never been great. Fourth and fifth wave feminism have greatly damaged, in my opinion. Admittedly, this is only my opinion, and I'm sure I'm going to offend a whole army of feminists. It has damaged the British population. We've had a decline in the British population for about 40 years, more than 40 years. There has been this incremental decline, and it's starting to slowly accelerate by inches, if you like. And it is something that we really need to address. And it's never a complicated, comfortable complication, because neither of us have kids, do we?
No, we do not. No.
No. I think that's a telling statement, not just for men, but women of our age category are also without kids. And I think that's a profound perspective or position, especially in a country that wants to continue more and more isolation. I mean, you're pro. You don't think they do enough on the immigration, don't you?
I think they need to be smart about what they do with the immigration and not just open the doors to everybody, but be tactical.
I don't think I don't believe for a second they're opening the doors. I think that's a the rhetoric that comes out of Parliament all the time about immigration is so hostile. There's no way that they have an open door immigration. I think that's a mispresentation. But there is connotations around this, and the reason I say that is the declining birth rate in the United Kingdom is below replacement level. And it has been for decades, since we were kids, basically. And because it's below replacement level, we have got to the point where the immigration office and all of the migrant people, they're all talking tough. They're talking really, really tough. Hello, Trixie, darling. They're talking really, really tough on that lot. But I don't actually believe many of these ministers believe it. Because we're trying to support an industrial nation. Britain is an industrial nation. You've got to remember.
It is, yeah. It's built off the back of it. So.
Yeah. Immigrants build off the back of our nation. Whether we like to admit that or not, they do. Our waste is generally managed by migrants. Our care industry is generally managed by migrants. The fast food industry is swimming in migrants. You can admit that. We can both attest to that. We've worked in the industry.
Yes, good 50-50.
Yeah, the industry is, and we're not exactly in a big city. That's the thing.
No, we're not.
It's 50-50, and we're not in a big city.
Yeah.
I think that's that we're in a cattle market. Hello, darling. You're so beautiful. Yes, you are. And I think the immigrational problems we suffer is, on one hand, we need migrants. And Britons don't like being told that. We do. Because we don't have replacement level birth rates. And on the other hand, the ministers want to say and speak and be hard about it. What we need is a point system. And as I said to you, the illegal migrants. We had this conversation the other time, and I thought it was really quite telling. Have a system that where you gather all of the current illegal migrants. You basically, because we're a sovereign nation, we're not part of the EU. We're not. I don't think we'll be part of the ERHC, the Human Rights Court, for very long, especially the way that some parts of Parliament are speaking. We should turn around and say to all the illegal immigrants, you do 10 years in any industry, the dirtiest industries in the UK, and you get citizenship. And then we can start focusing where we actually desperately need them. Things like the areas that Britain just don't have any industrial capacities, because then we are short-staffed in all kinds of areas. And people say, we can get the migrants here, the migrants that, the Doleys here, the Doleys that. That's bollocks. Okay, the amount of people on the dole are so minusculely small that you can't convert them into mobile labour.
That's what last time I remembered.
It's 1.5 to 2 million people on the dole.
When it said we had a dole people being on the dole was an issue, was years ago, and I haven't heard it again since.
No, of course. It's not, because they know they've been caught out lying.
And literally, I know very few people that survive on the dole system.
No. The whole system is bent to demonise anybody not in full-time 36 to 40-hour works. But Europe doesn't work those hours. No. That's why there's an opt-out system. The system that Britain wants to embrace, a plus 48-hour system, Europe bans it. It's illegal in whole sections of Europe. And that's because we have a tax system that is crumbling. 100,000 pages of taxes in the UK.
That's just a stupid amount. Why so many pages?
Decades of this.
It's because they literally kept adding pages on and on.
And the scary thing is there's an opt-out for everyone. If you're smart and you know the right accountants, you can opt out of tax. And it's legal. It's completely fucking legal. We make it as podcasters, we're doing it. I'm telling you now. Because it's legal, it's entirely lawful. And I feel that our viewers will walk through that journey with them. Because I feel if you advertise more what is going on, bring the country more aware of what's going on, exposure is always, bringing everything to the light is absolutely preferable.
It's the only way you're going to solve the issue.
And as I said to you before, when before you guys don't know, we did a mock, which was us basically setting up the camera, really bad lighting, terrible angling from me. Chris was like, you're an idiot, but then what's new?
No change there.
Kiss my ass. But in essence, we need a two-tier tax system. We want tax people that are over $1 million, tax people who make under $1 million. We don't want it too fucking expensive. No one is going to pay 60% tax. No one. We need to get this out of the British people's public eyes, because the tax system currently punishes anyone who doesn't go to a tax haven, who doesn't have an accounting agency, who doesn't. It's common sense to go to an accounting agency nowadays. Absolutely common sense. Two things of importance about when people say we need to protect the accountant jobs, when they say you build this two system, you'll wipe out hundreds of thousands of jobs. The AI are going to do that anyway. Artificial intelligence is on the verge of wiping out.
I'm going to say, that's on the rise, so it won't be long before that wipes out
an entire industry.
More jobs than you actually realise.
Yeah, many of the white-collar jobs are going to go to the dogs. Many of the computer-based jobs that can be done by algorithms are going to go to the dogs. Therefore, people need to realise that we should get ahead of the curve, change the tax system to a two-tier system, one where corporations only pay about 35% tax. There's no outs. There's no skips, no back deals, no sweethearts, nothing. Everybody who makes more than £1 million pays 35% tax, no questions asked. Everybody under pays 20-something% tax. That system will generate us money. On the low medium, I was reading, the low medium, I think, is from our current income, it will improve it by between 6 to 12 billion. On the upper medium, that's on top of what we're already making, it'll make us 100. to 120 more a year.
Just by simplifying the tax system.
Just simplifying the tax system will increase our income as a country and our ability to generate money.
Which will then correspond with
the ability to then pay for roads, pay for maintenance, pay for the schools, pay for the fucking police that we haven't even fucking seen. The coppers are getting fucking shafted. The very system that's supposed to keep us alive. We're seeing it on the press right now. Police are talking just recently about the lack of their frontline services are going to need to be cut unless more money's brought in.
I'm saying the amount of police that were on the front line when I was a kid compared to now, it's just ridiculous.
It doesn't exist. We used to see bobbies on the foot.
Yeah, I used to see coppers walking the streets when I was a kid. Now I'll be lucky if I see them in a car.
That's one person.
One
person per copper.
Not like a set of two or whatnot.
Which is what they're supposed to have. They're supposed to have two per car. I've seen so many cruisers running around with a single copper. Simplifying our tax system will allow to answer the questions about where does the money come from, because too many companies in the UK are dodging tax lawfully. I want to preface that lawfully because of the backdoors that are given to them by
the current tax system or the exits they're given,
which is insane. Because these companies all use the facilities here in the UK, all of them. They use our electricity. They use our roads for whatever transportation they're using. They use our energy grid, as I just mentioned. The entirety of the United Kingdom prolifically requires industrial reinforcement. We need to build everywhere, and that's the problem. There hasn't been an infrastructure project in our life. And I mean, I'm talking about.
I think we need to improve on what we've already got before we can complete.
No. We need to renovate our entire infrastructure, from everything from our electrical grids to our internet capacities. And another thing that pisses me off, the 5G would revolutionise our online abilities, but because China's the one who installed our 5G, the fucking Americans have called us to pull it down.
Really?
Yeah. The 5G system that is partially in phones today. We do not benefit as a country because the 5G system we had installed was installed by a Chinese company.
And the Americans get funny with that just because it's Chinese.
No. They got funny with it because they said it was a security risk. I couldn't give a shit. I genuinely, I can hand on heart, do not give a flying fuck.
Yeah, but then wouldn't they have had to jump through?
We are not a superpower anymore.
Wouldn't the companies to install our 5G for us have to go through certain
of course, absolutely.
certain legalizations and red tape and always get it put in?
And multiple of these checks were all double checked.
Yeah. So how would that be good security
for some reason, someone in, I assume the Five Eyes or the CIA, turned around and said that they considered that a security risk, that Britain was relying on China to provide...
A security risk to us or a security risk to them? Let's get that right, yeah? That's the thing that flags up straight away. If a different nation saying it's a security risk, is it a security risk to us or is it a security risk to them?
I think it's a security risk to America's dominance.
Yeah,
and that's an important fact, and I genuinely don't give a fuck about America's dominance.
I say we should be focusing on ourselves.
What our needs are. Yeah, absolutely. Britain, and I'm not even apologetic at saying that Britain should be more isolationistic when it comes to American power, because what benefits America does not automatically benefit us.
No,
and I'm tired of Parliament and the Prime Minister's office assuming that what benefits Europe genuinely does benefit us, because they're fucking right next door.
I say they're right next door, and they're on some of the.
We share so many trade and living standard laws. Those are the laws involving our food, our waste.
Yeah, I was going to say most of our trading with food and whatnot comes from Europe.
More than 50%. I think that's right.
A good chunk comes from Europe and everything else because they're our neighbouring countries. When I look at American food coming in, literally. I'm not going to lie, you look at it on the shelf and it's one section of an aisle and it costs about 2-3 times more than a similar product that was made locally.
Or in Europe.
It's
mad. It's what irritates me is the lack of engagement from the British people, and this is another factor on why I wanted to start this podcast with you, because there are too few Britons willing to sit up and say, hang on, why is our life this fucking shit? And the answer is too many interests and Parliament going in too many directions that doesn't involve mine and your benefit.
No.
That's the problem. Parliament doesn't work for me and you. And they haven't done our entire life. I'd be almost... Can you name a law? Can you name a law that the British Parliament has passed that benefits the British people?
No.
I looked up one. I looked up one. I couldn't find more than one. That was to do with the... transformations for children not to be transformed. Involving transgender.
Oh, due to the latest.
Due to the latest discoveries.
Yeah.
About how permanent some of the immunoblockers are and some of the sterilising effects of some of the drugs. Like the drugs.
But then nothing should be done to a child until they're actually legal age consent.
Yeah, that's a whole fucking another ball game.
That's no other ball game. It's just simple. If a child cannot drive until they're 16 or drink or do anything else until they're 18. Go. Then when it comes to changing the child's sex due to whatever reason, it's just stupid.
It's not much. We don't legally allow children to vote, to go to the army, as you said, drive, procreate.
Because they ain't fully developed.
No.
They won't be fully developed, and most studies now say most people don't fully develop until the ages between 18 and 25.
21, I think.
21?
Yeah.
18, 21, 25. That says to me that sex change...
Which is permanently scarring.
Which multiple people have turned around and said they wish they didn't do it because it caused massive harm.
Yeah, there is an absolutely fucking enormous detransitioning community.
Yeah.
It's huge. This is the scary thing, and their stories aren't even being heard. That's the fucking scary thing. Is how
the reason the stories are being heard is because, in fact, it's contradicting the current agenda that's being pushed upon us by a
conspiracy theory, Christopher.
No, and that's just by a fraction of the population, which.
And the crazy thing is, the trans community. What would you say the gay community of Britain is? Less than 1%.
I'll be surprised if it is 1%, to be honest.
Less than 1%, I would guess that. The trans community is 1% of them.
Hang on, so trans community is 1% of
the gay
community.
And
which
the gay community,
we're talking a
percent of a percent.
A percent of a percent, which is fuck all.
Mm-hmm.
Which says to me, if we were to turn around and just get them all to just go into one city to see how big of a city they fill up.
You wouldn't. I
have a distinct feeling it would be a nice little town in the bottom of the country somewhere. Which, I'm not going to lie, I think most people would avoid. And that's not because of them as a people, but because of the rants they keep going on about when we have our own situations to deal with. We're not going to take upon your responsibility because you can't handle whatever you're going through.
Mm.
That's where we say seek professional help and advice.
No. I'm even against it because the professional fucking help want to make money. They see how the trans industry is worth billions of pounds in America, and they want to transplant it here in the UK. Private medical companies want to copy what's going on in America right now.
That's where we need to sort out the tax system, reinforce NHS, and then do it for the general well-being of the person, not for the company.
That's the fundamental problem. So, to recap on the first part of this podcast, I fundamentally believe that feminism is the root cause of the declining population in most Western societies because it refuses to address the collapse of the nucleus family.
I believe it's a part of it. I don't think it's the sole cause. But it's a good wedge under the door. Because from feminism comes hookup culture,
where women are encouraged to engage in hookup culture. Yeah. Feminists encourage hookup culture.
Yeah, that's a topic of OnlyFans, which I'd love to get into. Yeah.
I'm not actually. I don't have an actual grind with OnlyFans. If a woman wants to be a modern porn star, meh. That's their business.
No, see, this is where...
As long as it's a consenting female adult. My fright is how many teenagers are planning to become OnlyFans.
See, that's where I start again, where the line's starting to blur. Because the fact, obviously, if you're an adult and you want to go down that route, fair enough, you can go down that route.
Yeah.
And you publicise yourself accordingly within that fashion. Yeah? Which I know some people are still outrageous and appalled that women want to go into that sort of industry. But that industry's been around for years.
Yeah, it's the oldest game in the book. So I mean, that's
it's not as if it's new. It's just, as I call it, it's been
retitled. It's a morphing industry of the oldest game in the book.
It's just retitled into something of the latest generation. Which, fair enough if they want to do it. The only gripe I have is when they then push it upon you upon the social media.
That's the problem. OnlyFans is driven by social media.
Yeah. I can understand thirst trapping, and these days you can spot it a mile off. Mm-hmm. But then if you're after that sort of thing, you can find it easily enough. Mm-hmm. It's when, over the past couple of months, I've had several female accounts on my social media approach me asking to be friends, and then they literally drop it within about the first 5 messages. Would you oppose if I had OnlyFans? And I go, up to you what you do, but I ain't partaking in it because that's not what I'm after. It's the fact that actively seeking people through DMs,
that's going too far.
Yeah.
If you're going to engage in the oldest trade in the book, fair enough, you've got an advertising page, cool.
Yeah, you do your page, you call into that, and then people that want to go into that I want to divulge in that sort of thing will then be able to find you easy enough. But then DMing me as a general person and then throwing it down in the DMs, no. That says, I'm sorry, but I know it's harsh, but that says you shouldn't be in the industry because no one likes you in that respect.
Because you're having to hunt to go to DMs.
You have to hunt to go for it, which means, as people like to call, you're not appealing to the current niche that is required on that platform. Yeah? If you're not...
Spicy conversation.
If you're not applying to that niche, then I'm afraid you trying to start up that sort of thing, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. I personally, I find that many of this comes from the feminical age. I believe the destruction of the family unit is a major part, and that's a key factor as a Muslim.
The fact that they keep pushing that women are strong and they don't need a man. I know this is more looked upon the traditional view, which is fine. I'm of the older generation. I believe in the traditional view. Also realising that some aspects of the modern era need to be pushed into it.
We're going to be called misogynists, I can guarantee it.
No, I'm fine with that.
Misogynists!
I'm fine with that because
You hate women!
I'm strong and I know within myself that what I believe is what I think to be true, and I'll base on the person that I get with, if I do get with someone, has similar viewpoints. And there's nothing wrong in that.
We need to get you to Texas or Alabama for one of them country girls. An American girl from the whole back. That's where we need to get you, because there's none of them in Britain. Neither of us should be marrying Britons if we get to this.
No, there are Britons we can marry. Obviously, we'd have to.
They're all married already. What are you talking about? The ones that we want are already married.
No, we can marry ones that have been already married because they split up and then they have obviously their own baggage, children, and everything else. But that's where we have to make the compromise and realise that there's going to be previous.
What is your opinion on single mums then?
Single mums? If you're down for it, fair enough, go for it. You're completely free to do that. I will only enter into that agreement if I'm honest opinion, if the father of that child is nowhere in sight.
Ooh, that's controversial.
Yeah. And it is I'm meeting her and the child is exceptionally young. Yeah. Because I'm not going to walk into it and the child's a teenager, already has contact with the father and everything else. Because then
your authority with them.
Yeah, because then you try and stamp as the authority in the household, and that would be a challenge on a daily basis from the children.
Yeah.
Because they would see you as a threat.
You see, and we have different views in Muslims. In Islam, we are taught to encourage the child to seek the father, to maintain relations with the father's family because of deen.
That's what was pushed out of the latest feminism. You don't need a man.
Yeah. But you do. You absolutely do. And that's a fundamental thing. Every child needs to be attached with their father and mother. The most recent studies they've had, I don't remember the doctor who mentioned it, was a female doctor. She said the strength of a mother's, how successful a mother is whether she has a supporting partner.
Yeah.
And I mean, they neutralised it. They didn't even say supporting father. They said a supporting partner. Because if the mother is starved of affection and resources, the children are starved because she's having to store it for herself.
It's a correlation effect.
Yeah.
If it's a single parent household, whatever that person is not getting will be passed down to the child.
Yeah.
Even if they have, obviously the parents are separated and the custody agreement is allowed for equally both to see them and they're able to grow up with both of them, yes, it will have an effect, but it won't have as much as effect
if the father was in the household.
If it was just a single parent household. But if you have both in the household, which is encouraged, I would encourage
society should encourage it.
We'll grow a much stronger nation, because I literally believe this. At the moment, where we've had a strong generation, it is literally bred a generation of privileged people which are weaker because they can't deal with stuff. This has literally been proven in the places that I've worked at. The more privileged a child is, the more weaker they are mentally. Hence the reason why the depression and anxiety has risen. Because they haven't
there is a rise of anxiety and depression based upon the very real reality that we have identified more mental illnesses.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a growth for this because of identification. And that's something that is rarely spoken about in terms of the growth of mental illness.
But I believe they've stemmed because of the fact they haven't had the support that they should.
True. That can be easily held as an argument that the lack of an extra partner or children being foisted off. You see, and again, from some of the other side of the work I've done, I've dealt with privileged children that have had nannies and that lot, and they're fucking awful. Absolutely, privileged kids can be overly overprivileged kids can be awful to deal with. Absolutely awful. Like, they think everything is a transaction, everything is financial, everything can be bought.
But then that's where the parents should then turn around and make sure that they, even in the wealthiest families, get their children to go into work as soon as they're able to. Legally, mind. That doesn't mean start trying to push child labour. No.
Christopher! Bring back the child labour of the Victorian times! Get up that chimney!
No, even a simple act of letting... Because obviously young children now can obviously do newspaper rounds.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not going to lie, is a dying thing, because obviously it's all going digital.
Yeah.
But something similar to that...
I don't think there is anything similar to that.
Gives them a better understanding of money, and then therefore will actually stop.
There might be eventually a digital format that allows children to try and make money as a side hustle kind of thing. And I hate that word, side hustle. I think it's overused and over communicated.
An extra form of income is what I call it.
Extra form of income. So, what are your thoughts about Britain being involved in the Middle East and all the crises that are going on in the Middle East?
The only involvement we should partake in is making sure the refugees that come over are safely, adequately sorted, done. Obviously, if we had the two-tier system, say you can stay here 10 years, do our grunty work, and then we'll give you citizenship. Otherwise, once your war's over, we'll pass you back so you can then rebuild your country.
The problem being is, one of the things I have with people who are anti-immigrant, really, and we're talking the EDL a lot, the crazy fuckers.
If people are needing, as I call, aid from war, take that in, but make sure they are set up in a proper place where it's not going to disrupt what we currently got on, or put it in a place where it's going to help what we got going on. Yeah. Instead of just letting them come in and then survive off our benefit system, because then that just means us as taxpayers are then just funding their lifestyle until they're ready to go back.
Ideally, I think we should have a system where we take in genuine refugees, prove we're genuine refugees. The problem we have is the Tories cut all forms of communication. During the Tory years, involving Calais, which is our major entrance point, as any Briton will tell you, the communication between Britain and France over that almost died completely. They weren't talking to them, they weren't accepting them, they weren't even discussing taking in refugees instead of economical migrants. Britain basically threw a paddy and refused to even talk to them. And this is why there has been such an increase in illegal migration, because there are few, if any, legal migration methods to get into the country. I'm serious. For those that are disadvantaged, it is incredibly difficult to come here.
But then that's where our government should step up and stop acting like a frigging spoiled child. And literally go to France,
Sit down and have a talk.
Sit down, have a talk, and set up an effective way for legitimate refugees to come through on Cali and whatnot, so we can then make sure that we're actually accepting the correct ones, and not have masses of ones which are getting in the country through illegal means.
Because they want to be somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And one of the factors that I tend to argue about in support of why migrants should realistically be allowed in the UK is we don't have the birth. We don't have the birth rate. I know this sounds really cold, but we're not having 2 kids per household now. It's not even. But
that's where I would then counteract that and say, as long as they're working towards a citizenship, so they become a proper British citizen.
Oh, yeah, no, completely. Yeah. That's the economical migrants.
Yeah, because then
we're talking the refugees in a perfect situation. They get to go home, help rebuild their country from a refugee point of view. From the economical migrants, we should go with the 10-year plan. Basically, build a program.
That's the distinguishing feature there. The ones that want to come here and stay, say you can only stay if you do the 10 years of this and then you get your citizenship, and we'll gladly support you through having children in the system. The ones that are just coming here to just stay whilst the conflict in where they're coming from is sorted, and then they then go back and not stay.
Yeah.
But then if they want to stay, they then turn around and transfer over to the other system.
The other system, obviously. But Britain has never built this system. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if they'd even had a system. There is no real immigration system. It's about get out, fuck off. And that's the attitude that the Tories and much of Little Englander has. And I don't mean to insult you, because I know you're very English and you do love your country. You're the average normal England people. That's what I'm trying to get at. The Little Englanders are your BNP supporters, they're your Nigel Farage fans. And I genuinely think that man has never solved a single problem. He's created hundreds.
All I hear is him waffle, but I've never seen any action.
That's what I'm saying. He has never actually achieved anything. For all of his talk, for all of the years of he's been talking, Europe's this, Europe's that, migrant this, what solution has he given us?
Nothing, he's just complained.
That's the thing. He's a professional complainer. He has very rarely, if ever, provided something worth its fucking salt. The man has almost never, in my opinion...
I think that's him complaining is what fueled most of the country to exit EU.
To be fair, I don't know. No. There's a lot of complications there. A lot of the country, specifically, let's talk about England. England ignores a lot that goes on north of the Watford Gap. That's not a joke. I know we joke about north of the Watford Gap, and that's generally a trope from the British people, but a lot of the towns and cities after Margaret Thatcher's era were abandoned by both Labour and the Tories. The Labour took them for granted. The Tories didn't care. Boris Johnson made a load of open-air promises. That's how he broke the Red Wall. And those promises didn't materialise because Boris Johnson's a lying populist and has been. And I think he should be criminally charged. I genuinely think Boris Johnson's one of the worst Prime Minister we've had in our lifetime. Can you... I mean, who would you think is worse than Boris Johnson in our 40-something years of life? And I know many people would say Liz Truss, but she wasn't in power long enough to do that.
I say she wasn't in power long enough to actually do anything.
Yeah. Head of lettuce. I still laugh today. Head of lettuce.
So literally, she gained power, said she was going to do stuff, but then
the economy wobbled. And she was out.
Said she was going to do stuff. Tried to implement it. Tried to start implementing it. Everything started shaking on its foundations. So went nope. Gone. Yeah. The Conservative Party did one good act: eject her. That's why they in business they call it Q-tanging it. Her Chancellor's name has become an acronym to fucking things up economically. You Q-tang a problem. That means you fucked up so bad it's like snafu in the military terms. He Q-tanged the problem in such a short time as well.
I know, it's madness. Less than a head of lettuce. But I think that one of the key factors that many of the nationalists who I'd like to engage in this conversation, who don't want migrants here, stop supporting dropping bombs on their fucking cities.
That's where I come to the point, in fact, of if this conflict's going elsewhere, we should not be involved in it.
No.
If we ain't strong enough as a country to stand on our own 2 feet, which we are not. Yeah,
brutal.
We are not. Let's just straight to it. We are not, because the fact, obviously, as Sean
but Europe's
said,
Europe's not involved.
Europe's not involved. No.
So if we're still have to be part of Europe, why are we involved on behalf of America?
Europe is literally next door to where the conflict's going, and they haven't even stepped foot in it. Why are we? Is it because of the fact we're being bullied by the US?
Absolutely. Yeah, the US has to go into conflicts with allies. Always. They can't be seen doing things on their own.
Which says to me that if they want to, as they say that they're a superpower, why are they always backing? Yeah.
Shots fired at America's superpower ship.
No, it's an honest question which requires an honest answer. If you can't deal with your own conflicts and require us to come in and clean up your mess,
but then they would argue their superpower status is based upon how they can influence their allies as well.
No, your superpower status should be a case of how you can hold your own.
This is the conversation. What does it mean to be a superpower? Is it purely military? Or is it military influence and economic? Because if
it's a combination of both. It's the fact that
if it's a combination of both, we are between 40 to 50 trillion worth of investments that come from America. Think how much McDonald's, Google, all of these companies that operate here in the UK are worth to just the UK economy, and then take a factor of how much money, how much profit, because we only take the tax side, and our tax. What little we take of them is still worth billions from all these big tech companies, these McDonald's, fast foods, etc., etc. All these big name American brands.
Yeah, but they're not classified that as a form of business because you're doing business with another country.
The problem being is we don't have any defensive economical means with these countries. We roll over for America every fucking time.
But then,
and we have done our entire life.
The thing I say is, then, if obviously they've got companies which are here, what companies have we got that are over there?
Very few.
Or has ours all started to be slowly bought up by the American companies?
We have very few companies that I believe that are still left. BP isn't even owned by us anymore. British Petroleum is not even owned by us.
That's the one thing I think we need to sort out first before we do anything else, is strengthen our own economical
But
growth.
You can't do that without America.
Use that as a footstool. The moment we turn around, they say that we can still turn around and obviously their business is appreciated and do it as a business contract. And so we then have our own legitimate say in everything. They have their own legitimate say in everything that goes on in theirs.
The problem you've got is that the general power projection does not operate like that, Chris. I wish it did. The only way we've got a Prime Minister now who has betrayed every single manifesto promise he's made.
Yeah, I know, and that's pissed me off.
We have a Prime Minister right now who should be a leftist. And I'm not even a supporter of some of the things that was on the Labour manifesto. That's what I want to be pointing out. Because I thought they were a bit too left-wing for my taste. But the reality is he's betrayed them all. Every single one of them. He's honoured nothing.
He's almost as if he's been bent over by someone and say, you're following my rule now.
I genuinely think that what happens behind closed doors in Parliament needs a light shined on it every single fucking day, because we know so little of what's going on in our Parliament. Parliament gets some scrutiny, but government doesn't. Government almost never gets any real scrutiny, and I think there needs to be more public interest in what our government physically does. For a party leader to make an entire manifesto on what he's going to do when he gets into power, wins a thumping majority, because the country, admittedly there was apathy for Tories, we'd had enough.
Yeah.
14 years, we'd had enough, the country's had enough.
As I call it, we've gone from one end and we swung completely the other way because we've had enough of the one party. But then for that party that we then voted for to then everything they said, we're going to work towards to improving, then drop it like a hat and set it on fire and to put it in the ashtray. Yeah. And then go completely the other way, we might as well stuck with the pissing Tories.
No. If we'd voted for if we'd voted for Sunak again, I think we would have seen real riots across the country, because they have failed us. Remember, we've had 5 prime ministers in between 2 elections. 5 Tory prime ministers. Their infighting got so bad that by the time we'd got to Sunak, that was our 5th prime minister.
That's crazy.
In a system that allows 5 prime ministers,
should not be in power, and it ain't now. But then a person that turns around and says, I'm going to do this to help the country, and then back down on everything, he should be removed as well.
Yeah. No, I fundamentally hold that I have no faith in Keir Starmer in anything he says. I find him slimy,
The fact that there's a chance that council tax is going to go up by 25%.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, completely. Middle Britain is that's the thing that happened in America. America has lost its middle class. America has completely lost its middle class. They've been annihilated practically. You've got slightly rich Americans, people who own more than £1 million.
Yeah.
And that is the equivalent of the new middle class. People with more than £1 million or $1 million are the new middle class. That's mad. That's fucking mad.
I felt like you have to have over £1 million to be classed as middle class, which is a pain in the ass.
Madness, fucking madness. Middle class used to be you could in a few years you could afford a house, you could afford to take your kids to school, you could go on holiday for a couple of times a year. That was middle class. It doesn't exist anymore. When was the last time you could afford for you? I mean, not as a family outing, because I know you've just gone recently with family.
Yeah.
But when it was just you, could you afford, on your salary by yourself, to go and take yourself on holiday for 2 weeks?
In the country, yes.
Out of the country?
Out of the country, not a chance.
No, of course not. And we're working class men.
I would used to have to save at least a year or year to 2 years to save to go on holiday out of the country.
It's madness. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have excessive. We're not married. We don't have kids. And
we got disposable income, and we can't do it. So how on earth are families doing it? Without driving up a massive amount of debt.
Yeah. And debt is another thing. This is a key reason why Muslims hate debt. It's one of the key factors that riba, as we Muslims call it, is vile. We consider it the enemy of human society. If you are using, I know you and many Westerners prefer that, say, a credit card can be used if it's done smartly.
Yeah, I use a credit card smartly.
Of course, there are people who do, but there are credit card people who can run up credit card debt so quickly it destroys their lives.
I only use a credit card to keep my credit score good and happy in case I need to take out a small mortgage.
Why do you need a credit score?
No, in case I need a mortgage.
No. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Why does the credit score system exist?
To keep everyone in bloody line, I reckon.
That's the point of what I'm saying about these questions is, why does the credit score system exist? So you can get an acceptable fucking loan. Because if your credit score isn't above, I think it's 900, loans are horrific. If your credit score, and you don't even get loans if you've got a credit score below 400. So if you've got a credit score below 400, you don't get loans. If you've got a credit score below...
You do get loans if you've got a credit score below 400, but the interest rate on them is so extortionate, you're like, nah, tough it out, sell some shit and then carry on.
That's what I'm saying. If you've got a credit score below 400, you might as well never ever look at buying a credit or getting yourself a loan for anything. And loans via interest rating are disgusting anyway. Oudhu billah, mashaitan regime. I can't stand them. And the very nature around them. The two-tier system involving taxes will allow us to massively improve our society, in my opinion. I think it will be on the upper end of tax income to our society. It will streamline our tax system. It will allow us to build further infrastructure, and it will allow us to modernise our own technological sites.
This is the thing, obviously, two-tax system, fantastic, but then we've got to make sure there's laws put in place that the government then doesn't misuse that money.
No, absolutely. But to be fair, the ministerial code is dictated by our Prime Minister. And that I have a problem with. The Prime Minister, because we saw that through Boris Johnson, where he had ministers that were fucking around that the whole of Parliament had to shake to get Boris to fire someone. Because he claimed they hadn't broken the ministerial code. Because the ministerial code is decided by the man sat there with the King's prime ministerial privileges.
I want to get in power now, and you know for a fact if I'd done that, I'd cause evil.
Just so you all know, I've named the Irish Muslim as my Home Secretary. All you little fuckers behave. This Malachite is coming.
I'd actually put you in charge of defence in the UK.
Give me the nukes. Give me the nukes.
No, that was solely running my power, never been yours.
Hello, America. Are you talking to me? Get the Israeli behave, or are you playing hide the nuclear button?
No, I would be in charge of that because I know for a fact.
You don't trust me.
I don't trust you, but I know for a fact if anyone poses a nuclear war, that's it. Fuck across the world.
You just don't trust me.
I won't trust anyone with that power, to be quite honest. I reckon nuclear power should be...
Hello, Israel. It's so nice to talk to you with my nuclear box.
Nuclear power should not be controlled by one person. It should be governed by a group.
The problem is, it's control. I'm not entirely sure with Britain, but I think there's some kind of colonel or general who has the box. He doesn't have the keys. A colonel or general has a box, and then the keys are on another person, and the prime minister's the one who has to turn it. And I think it has a lot of sound of mind as well. So as much as I may manically laugh about that whilst fantasising, because let's be fair, that is what it is. If me and you even remotely came near power, though, you would never let me near. John, go recruit soldiers, go build tanks, play around in the sand, but you're not touching my missiles.
I want you to build a strong defence.
Defensive! In that case.
Defence, not the other one. Not offensive, defensive.
I know. I have a few manic moments. Children vaping.
Shouldn't be allowed.
10 to 12-year-olds.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
I thought it was under the case of fact it's full, the same as smoking.
It is, but it's prolific across Gloucestershire. Where we live, I have seen it on every street corner.
It's because the fact adults go and buy it and think there's no harm to it.
It's madness.
But it is.
There is a serious problem with vape in our country.
I was going to say, it's already been proven vaping is just as bad as smoking. Because obviously, where smoking obviously causes cancer, well, can lead to cancer.
Vapes can lead to lung damage.
Vapes lead to lung damage, and what they're now referring to as popcorn lung.
Fucking hell.
Which is rather disturbing.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
The fact that obviously our birth rate is already under our death rate, and young kids are literally putting themselves in danger, where they'll come to our age, and they will have health issues.
Well, we have health issues now.
No, but
your lower back is fucked.
No, actually, my lower back's improving. But literally, where mine and yours is more due to the fact of the lifestyle.
Wear and tear of decades of work.
Yeah, wear and tear, which is understandable, which everyone will get. Theirs is due to abuse of the body. And abuse of the lungs provides the oxygen into your bloodstream, which then is pumped around the heart, is going to lead to earlier deaths.
No, it is, absolutely. And talking about children and vaping, the conversation I had with you earlier today, or was it the other day, 12 to 13-year-old girls from, and this is rumour, in Sengo classes, discussing the size of their boyfriend's business. And that comes from promiscuity, where feminists have pushed for more sexualised clothing for women. The age of advertising has gone down. No. We need to implement laws on the advertising of children.
I'm a big advocate when it comes to sexual exploitation of your own body. It needs to be done after you've done school, basically.
Yeah, legal capacity. But I point a premises here. The conversation had about 12 to 13-year-olds having more sex than their grandmothers is rumoured. I do not want this to assume that I'm holding any kind of factual position here. That is pure rumoured. But the fact that the rumour exists...
That is scary. Because of the fact, obviously, I know obviously everyone needs to be taught about sex education, but then the level of sexual education...
Do under 13-year-olds require sex education?
Under 13s, no.
But they are.
Why?
Because they want to prevent sexual transmitted diseases.
No, hang on. Sexual education should only come in to when they start menstruating. Which obviously 12, 13-year-olds is on, as I call it, on that borderline when they start getting introduced.
I am of the fundamental opinion that all forms of things like that should not be taught to children. I'm of the fundamental belief that we should avoid implementing things like sex education.
But then my form of sexual education is how your body works as you're going through puberty, not the fact of how you turn around, bend over and receive it doggy style. Yeah? Sexual education be a case of fact of how your body develops as you're going through the ages of 13 to 18 to 21. That's what sex education should be. Yeah.
The rumours that I've heard is that there are plenty of Senko schools in the United Kingdom. Senko means specialist schools for troubled children, where most 12 to 13-year-old girls are already sexually active. And I say caveat, that this is a rumour. The scary thing is, if that was ever to be looked at, it would be damning evidence of the sexualisation of of makeup, of clothing, push-up bras, sexualised clothing for children. And basically 12 to 13-year-olds are wearing 15, 16-year-old clothing. We should seriously hammer down on advertising, because we know the advertisers are picking teenage and preteen girls.
But then I think that's a cascade effect of where, I'm sorry feminists, but I'm coming at you again, where they're trying to push their own way of living and then they're teaching it to their younger children without thinking of the consequences that they're going to have on their younger children. When instead they're just thinking, right, okay, I may be doing this, but then I teach my kids, okay, where I may be doing this, it's not appropriate for you to be doing that until you've reached this age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until you've reached a certain age, then you can then turn around and start looking into it. But the fact that it seems to be stemming down from above.
That's not just the only case. There is a complete acceptance in British society not to challenge the feminist narrative.
Why not? I'm going to ask why not. Why are we not challenging it? Because of the fact, obviously, if it's having such a detrimental effect,
I genuinely believe it is. I genuinely
which is
believe
starting to show up, even in rumour form, says to me that's a massive red flag.
I think one of the things that the mathematician friend that I was talking to about this, she said to me, assume 40 to 50% of it is all rumour, so that the girls are boasting, lying. Yeah. Say 40 to 50% of it is rumour. She goes, but that should frighten you that 50% might not be rumour, and 20% that may be real penetrative sex. So if we have 20% of 12 to 13-year-olds having penetrative sex in all Senko classes, that should fucking terrify people. Now, admittedly, the math teacher says, and we could be entirely wrong about this.
Yeah.
So I do hold that as a caveat. But if they're not, people should be fucking terrified.
The fact that it is coming up as a rumour should be flagging warning signs up to everybody that we need to crack down and start doing something.
The problem being is that so little of what the girls and children and teenagers discuss in corridors and classrooms, there is this kind of teacher barrier that exists, and I think we need to start really taking a better look and a better charge of what goes on in our classrooms across the entire UK.
A full control of what goes on in classrooms.
No. You have organisers that involve educational standards.
Yeah.
So you say, Christopher, you come in as an educator, you say, are they got A's? Do they have B's? You're not listening to what they're talking about. Your standards is, what are their grades? You're not interested in their integration. As the educator, as the person who's expected, you're not interested in anything but their grades. Grades. No one pays attention towards social economics. No one pays attention to how the social interactions work.
That says to me
that's why there are so many teenage boys in this country. The teenage boys to teenage girls suicide rate is double.
Then
double.
It then should be focused on in school, because obviously naturally they go there to learn. But it's not just about academic. It should also then be about...
And this stems back to the single mother households.
Yeah. It should then also be about...
It stems back to the single mother households because the single mothers do not have the emotional strength to support the children, so they look for that support at school.
Then that's where the school should then turn around
No. I have to defend the teachers here. Why are the teachers being the parents?
Not necessarily the teachers.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're acting as surrogate parents for some of this parts.
No, in that case, I should say in each classroom there should be two people. One's the teacher, which teaches academic, increasing their knowledge and making sure they understand maths, English,
and the problem
science.
being is most mainstream academies and schools do not have the resources to provide an additional a teacher assistant.
Even in its case, but then why?
Because we don't.
When I was in secondary school, we had literally teachers for different subjects. So why not make it a subject
be
of that?
Horrified at how undersupplied, under-equipped the teachers are in the UK. It's horrifying. Teachers working and it's not just the hours they spend in the classroom.
It's the hours they spend outside the classroom.
Because they've got to write their forums. They've got to write their material. They've got to build their curriculum. They've got to make sure that they've got the right material. They've got to then liaison. They've got meetings they've got to take as well. It's fucking madness. Teachers are not paid anywhere near enough. Because if we properly paid attention to our education, to the way that the Swedes do, the way the Norwegians do, the way that whole very successful Northern European countries do. We are a Northern European country, though most people keep forgetting this. The Nordic countries plough enormous time and energy and resources into their children. And it proves. You only have to look at how articulated, intelligent.
I would say it does prove, because the fact all the people that I know that have come from the Northern European countries, they come here and their English is almost on par with ours and understand a lot better than what most of us do.
To be fair, you're Gloucestershireing, so I can kind of let you go on that one. Welcome back. We've just had a short break so I can get a coffee because, as Chris would likely tell you, I'm a coffee addict.
I don't know how you coffee people do it. I can't stand the stuff.
I drink it like it's water. To recap for pretty much what has been going on for this hour podcast, which I think has been really, really well. I think we've covered quite a few issues. We've covered so far cold effect of feminism on our birth rate, the tax system that we've got here in the United Kingdom, the two-tier tax system that I thought we'd want to implement, Chris's opinion on what's going on in the Middle East and migration, children smoking using vapes, and last but not least, the sexual promiscuity of our preteen and teenage, not even teenage, preteen and underaged legal conversations, rumoured, I might importantly point as a factor, to go on inside of Senko schools. This is the first podcast between Chris and myself, and we are the Blue Collar Workers discussing Britain's problems. It's lovely to have you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And if you didn't know what that means, it means peace and blessings be upon you, and upon you peace and blessings. But I know you don't speak Arabic.
You learn something new every day.
You probably forget by the time we get to the next one.
No, you'll probably say it about 2-3 more times.
And then it'll be like, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being a part of our podcast, and thank you for anybody who's made it to the end with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and as Chris would say, have a lovely day.